She was blue, my kindergarten teacher. All around her, you could see a blue light, like a bizarre halo. The blue wasn't azure, though. It was Prussian blue, dark but transparent. The same blue I used when I was 4 years old to illustrate the night sky in Drowsy Birds when Mrs. M gave us the task of drawing what we heard in Mihai Eminescu's verses. The village buzzed that day because Mrs. Florina's daughter had an extraordinary talent for drawing, and I think that was the day fate destined me to become an artist. There was no other way. Mrs. M always smiled melancholically and smelled of wildflowers. She had big, sad eyes, always gentle. In the summer evenings of our long vacations, we would visit her at home. She had a relatively large house with a yard that seemed enormous through the eyes of a kid. I painted sunsets by the sea in her garden. I would reach for the first time the sea 7 years later, but the little girl in me already dreamt of this place of infinite reflection. The sun always reflected on the water's surface, creating a dual world, the real world of the sun and of the sky, and the world of illusion of the moving water and its hidden, eternal mystery. When it became dark outside, Mrs. M would give me a desk lamp to continue painting. Around the lamp, moths gathered, dancing miraculous dances. I was already in first grade and 7 years old when Mrs. M called us back to the kindergarten on the hill to celebrate her birthday. She told us we were her favorite class. She made lemon cream cakes called Snow White. She brought a cassette player and played dance music for us. We had a terrific time, putting on bright red lipstick and taking photos. At the end of the afternoon, we declared in unison that that was the most beautiful day of our lives. How little and how much did we know about life at the same time? The next day at school, as soon as I entered the yard, a strange noise greeted me. There were groups of children everywhere, some whispering something, others in a strange silence. In one corner, a few classmates were crying. I asked the first girl who came out of the group what had happened. The answer came flat and very confusing at the moment. Mrs. M hanged herself. What did the verb to hang oneself mean? I knew about a war game, hangman, but nothing bad happened after the game. Why were the other kids crying? What happened to Mrs. M? I ran to another classmate. She committed suicide. I still didn't understand. I knew someone who committed suicide would die, but I wasn't clear how. She's dead, I told myself. But it can't be true. Only old people die, and she wasn't old. I finally found my mother, and she was crying too. It can't be true, can it? She can't be dead. She can't, can she? Yes, she can. We were allowed to do whatever we wanted during classes that day. They knew how attached and shocked we were. I drew flowers and wrote beautiful words to put in her coffin. I found out that Petra found her in the morning. She was in the shed, hanging from the ceiling. For years, I didn't enter our shed in the morning for fear of finding my mother there. It was a ritual. I had to know she was alive and somewhere else before I could step into the shed. On the day of the funeral, it rained heavily. My mother said even the clouds were crying. I asked my mother to dress me in black. My classmates and I had decided so, but I didn't have anything black. I was just a kid. I received a turtleneck sweater in the shade of china green. I was satisfied. I always believed that china green and Prussian blue matched, and Mrs. M was Prussian blue. They put her coffin in a fresh muddy grave. The air was cold and sharp. Why did she do this? Why would such a beautiful person do this? What couldn't she bear anymore? What does it mean to be sensitive? Those days marked the end of innocence for all of us. Life suddenly had the possibility of death, and it always did from then on.